world right now, as I'm sure yours is very small in a
Yeah.
way. But I live in a duplex with my sister's family downstairs and my family upstairs, which is, one of my favorite things.
Hmm.
And yeah, and I miss my community in San Francisco, but just trying to stay connected to everybody.
Of course, yeah, of course, yeah. No, I
Yeah.
same. I do
Yeah.
miss my my community, but yeah, we gotta stay in and until everyone's good. So,
Exactly.
so you're the founder of the Rebel Therapist podcast. What exactly is the Rebel Therapist?
So, a rebel therapist is somebody who is a therapist or a healer, someone who helps people and is finding ways to help people outside the treatment room. And so that could be through workshops or courses or books or podcasting. So,
Mm-hmm.
someone who's taken those skills and is leading in all kinds of creative ways and
Mm-hmm.
helping people in innovative ways.
That's awesome. So before you went on into private practice, what was your life before then? What brought you? What were the events that led up into you building up your own private practice?
I always felt like I wanted to be a therapist. And I was one of those people who wanted to be a therapist, but I didn't feel like I was ready when I was in my early 20s. Like I wanted to be a little more seasoned in life before diving into that. So I remember I was working in a restaurant and I became a co owner of the restaurant with some of my friends. And I was in that role for a few years. And I just remember feeling like I was kind of waiting for when I was ready to back to school and become a therapist. And then from there, I was working in an agency for a number of years, actually a queer agency in San Francisco. And I started feeling like even though I loved my agency, I loved the people I got to work with, both my colleagues and my clients, I also felt like I was craving some freedom in terms of how I wanted to work, how I wanted to even just set up my schedule, the ways I wanted to serve people. And I was really tired of the committee way of life of making every single decision in committee. And I wanted to kind of make my own decisions for my business. And so that was what led to starting my own private practice.
Mm. So obviously, when personally, right, like in my own experience, when I left my job downtown and went on and became self-employed, it wasn't all rainbows and sunshine.
Oh
So,
no, hell no.
so what were the biggest struggles that you had to face? Like, what was the daunting realizations you had that slapped you in the face? You're like, oh damn, it's not that easy.
Yeah, I mean, I think realizing that I was running my therapy practice like a nonprofit, and that doesn't work when you're paying the bills. So um, I was really uncomfortable with charging. I was really uncomfortable with being a business owner, even though, like I said, I had actually been a business owner in the restaurant. I was uncomfortable with bringing the therapy world and the business world together.
Mm.
And I had a lot to learn about how to run a therapy business. And then I went through kind of a process of raising my fees, of getting really clear on what my niche was and getting better at marketing and really seeing the potential of running my own business instead of just seeing it as this problem, instead of just seeing it as like I've got to run this like a nonprofit. The more I learned, I started actually getting excited about learning these business skills and then sharing them with my colleagues and realizing that I had kind of set up a false binary for myself of
Mm.
either you're serving or you're running a business. And as we can see right now, we need small businesses.
Mhm.
Like there is no binary there. So, but I would say there were some moments of like I can remember in the beginning of my private practice, I can just remember some moments of like, oh crap, like the numbers are not adding up here. And I need to figure this out, and I need to figure out both how to bring in the right clients and then how to run this like a business.
Hmm. So how did you rise above like the whole money mindset problems? How did you and all the other logistical stuff? What were the steps? How did you rise above it?
One thing I started doing was tracking everything. So getting really realistic with myself about tracking
Mm,
where were inquiries coming in from, like where were people finding me, what was working, especially with people who were a great fit for my business, what was working to bring them in. And I remember one day when I could see that like the numbers weren't adding up very well, and I was running it like a nonprofit, and I had a moment where I decided I'm going to call everybody who I trust and ask their advice. Like I'm just going to like not be so private about this and not have it be a secret that I'm struggling. And I'm just going to reach out to everybody I trust and ask their advice and ask them what they think I should do, what I should keep in mind, what their experiences have been. And I found that so helpful. Not everybody had good advice for me, but even just starting those conversations was incredibly helpful. So I think both of those things were kind of about getting really honest,
mm,
looking at my numbers, starting like I love spreadsheets. So starting starting to track things on spreadsheets and having conversations. Those were all really about bringing things into the light and being honest about my
mm.
business.
Yeah, it's always a big thing when you're even for myself, like I had to experience it as soon as I was willing to get vulnerable and admit certain things, then that's
Mhm.
the only time I actually got certain freedoms, not just business wise, but mentally as well.
Yes.
Yeah. And so with your clients, what do you find is the biggest thing that holds them back from tapping into their full potential?
I see one thing that holds them back is a fear of being seen. I think a fear of, like you were just saying, the vulnerability of being seen. I see people wanting to wait until they're quote unquote ready in order to put themselves out there in new ways, start new projects, lead in new ways, and to create the things that they're thinking about creating. A lot of times I see people holding back and saying, I'm going to wait till I'm ready. There's one more training I have to take, or I've got to wait till I get new headshots, or I've got to wait till my mentor tells me it's okay. So I think all of those things are, in a sense, a fear of being seen and
Mm-hmm.
of being willing to step out imperfect
Mm-hmm.
and learn by leading, really, instead of waiting until everything's perfect, which it never will be.
Yeah. So I was having a conversation yesterday around this, like people of color, people that aren't cisgendered are having a lot more trouble
Mm.
getting to that point where they are ready to talk about even starting their business or talking about certain things. Do you see that often with your clients?
That's interesting. A lot of my clients are in some way have experienced being marginalized.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it does add another layer of how having been attacked in the past, perhaps for
Mm-hmm.
being front and center, having been criticized, like not fitting this image of what a a healer is supposed to look like. You know, this idea that
Mm-hmm.
perhaps the images that are most predominant on Instagram are of like, you know, thin white women being the straight women being
Mm-hmm.
the healers that people have in their mind. And so I think it takes that much more courage and resilience and support and community to come forward
Mm-hmm.
and really say, this is who I am and this is who I'm serving. And
Mm-hmm.
these are my messages. And they may seem more political, they may seem more like bold than what perhaps someone who is, you know, straight, white, thin,
Mm-hmm.
cis, all of those things. Although, you know, really it's all political, but it may feel like they're putting themselves out there in a way that is going to take a lot more courage.
Mm. Yeah. So say let's get imaginative for a bit. Okay. So say you
Yeah.
have a magic wand. You have
Okay.
this a new brand new therapist just starting out, right?
Yeah.
If there's something that you could tap into their brain and say something that would actually register, what would that be?
Ooh, I like this. Um, I would want to say you now, in becoming a new therapist, becoming a new healer, you have all of this wisdom and all of this power inside of you, and this process of getting your license, of opening your business, all of this stuff may actually make you feel less powerful, and it may take a while for you to get back to your power. And so if you can hold on to that power right now, if you can remember how smart and wise you are, and why you got into this in the first place, you're going to go so much further. And so don't let people slow you down. Like, don't listen to people who are telling you that, you've got a lot to learn, or that, you're not really a leader, or that, your voice isn't needed. Don't listen to that. And remember the wisdom and the power that you already have inside you.
Mm, okay. That's awesome. Would you have the same advice for Annie from 20 years ago when you were just starting out in your own private practice? Yeah.
Absolutely. That could have really saved a lot of
Yeah.
wasted time. Yeah.
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 So as far as knowledge goes, what would have been very beneficial for Annie from 20 years ago, knowing what you know now? What would have been very beneficial if you could pick up the phone and talk to Annie from 20 years ago?
I think I would say, you could really cut through some wasted time if you embrace the idea of owning a micro business and helping other people and supporting other people in owning micro businesses.
Mm,
That you don't need to feel guilty about being a business owner, and you don't need to wring your hands about it. You can be a responsible business owner and dive right into it, and like start reading those business books and enjoy the process, and trust yourself that you're going to be ethical, and you're going to work with people who are also ethical, and you're going to support each other.
mm. That's awesome. So I saw in your website that like you're very you always offer different solutions for each and every single one of your clients, and I get that. I see a lot of one size fits all in the coaching industry, in the therapist business, pretty much everywhere. There's a lot of one size fits all. So what are the critical things that you consider in creating these personalized solutions?
I really want to help people get at who is it that they most want to serve, and what is the fit between what that person needs and what you are great at doing.
Mm,
And so that's not going to be the same for every person. I think sometimes business coaches look at what worked for them and they try to teach people how to reproduce that. And I get why they would do that, because it worked for them. They know how to do it. They want to teach people to do the same thing. But I want to help people to figure out for them what puts you in your zone of genius. Like, what kind of work really helps you give at your highest level, and then find that kind of like a Venn diagram, find the intersection between that and what the people you really want to serve are needing.
mm,
And everything is going to flow from there, including what you're going to be offering, how you're going to be marketing, how you're going to be spending your time, what you're going to hire out for instead of doing it yourself. It's all going to come from that place.
mm. So what's a question that you wish more of your clients asked?
What's the best use of my time?
Mm, yeah.
Instead of trying to do everything, instead of trying to, take every training and learn every
Hmm.
business thing, or even every healing modality, to really think, what's the very best use of my limited time?
Mm. Okay. So, Annie, is it okay if we hop out of the therapist world and talk about some LGBTQ plus stuff for a
That'd
bit?
be awesome. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. So you have a wife, two kids. You're pretty much living the dream. Heck, you're living my dream. So
Oh.
heck, you're living my dream. So what would you say if let's go back to the magic wand thing. I like doing that. If there's
Mhm.
a 14-year-old kid grappling with his or her um sexuality right now, what would you say that, and let's assume that it will actually register for them and that
Mm.
they won't have to grapple with it, what would you say to those kids?
I mean, it's going to sound cheesy, I think, that like you're so beautiful.
Mm,
And if you don't see that reflected back for some reason, if the people taking care of you don't seem to see that, then just wait.
mm,
Just wait and keep looking because you're just so beautiful
mm,
and you're absolutely lovable and you're going to be loved the way that you're imagining.
mm.
And I know it's a long time to wait, but just
Mhm.
wait.
Yeah, absolutely. What would you say, if you don't mind sharing, what were the things that you grappled with when you first started grappling? What when you first started working out your own experiences as far as sexuality goes?
Well, it's funny, like I am so lucky in that when I really realized that I was queer, I was already in an environment where there was a community.
Yeah.
And so I could step into that community. That doesn't mean it was super just smooth, but I just think about, like, I know for my wife, that was not the case. And for so many queer people, that's not the case, that you have this awareness that builds in you and you're not in a place
Hmm.
where there are people with open arms. So I was really lucky that I was.
Hmm.
Um, and then and then I think my challenges were, I mean, I know it's not like it's not a comparison situation,
Hmm.
but
Of course.
I think the hardest parts when I was going through that were in kind of bringing my immediate family along, and that
Mm-hmm.
of course took a little bit longer, and everyone had to go through their own process. And then
Hmm.
I do remember thinking, and I think I think things are different now. I'm like pushing 50. So I did go through the thoughts that like I probably wouldn't end up having a family. And what I meant by that at the time, not thinking of family the way I do now, what I meant by that at the time would be that I wouldn't have kids, which obviously I do. So I was wrong about that.
Hmm. How old are your kids now?
16 and 10.
Oh, wow.
No, actually
Wow.
17 and 10. He just turned
Wow.
17.
Wow. Oh, that's awesome. That
Yeah.
is awesome. So a lot of the biggest things for kids that are coming out or even later in age is the dealing with family. I know that's one of my biggest things when I first came out. So how would you say, as family members, what's the best way that we could support our family members that are coming out?
I think listening, really, really listening and reflecting back what they're saying, instead of putting our own experience on it, instead of assuming that we know what they're going through or that we already know what their identity is, like really listening carefully to
Hmm.
what language they feel supported by,
Hmm.
and then whatever discomfort comes up for, especially I'd say like for parents, caregivers, siblings, anybody, to just work through, is it okay if I swear? Or
Yeah.
yeah, just to work through that shit on their own. Like, to be there for the person and work through your shit on your own in therapy or with your friends or with somebody who you trust.
Hmm. And now for those our queer friends, whether kids or adult, that found themselves without their biological family after they came out, what would be your best piece of advice for them?
I think again it would be about like you're going to find your chosen family,
Mm.
and that's so irreplaceable and so important. And so really dedicate yourself to finding those people who you can truly trust, you can be 100% yourself with, and then put your energy into those relationships, because those are going to be potentially lifelong.
Mm. Yeah. Well, that's pretty much it. We've gone through everything. That's pretty quick. You
I'm
are,
curious what you
yeah.
think about that piece. Like, what would you say to someone in that situation?
Well, I found myself actually, my mom and I didn't talk for like 2 years.
Yeah.
Um, I would say the same. I found a chosen family through work friends.
Yeah.
The thing is, it's not to jump in with the first group that you find. Be
Mhm.
very very mindful about the circle that
Mhm.
you will keep, because like you said, it could be lifelong. Do not feel some kind of a fear of missing out because oh, I won't have any friends, and that's why you jump into the first circle that you find. So if the energy isn't right, it's just not right. So be very very mindful of who you will choose in your chosen family.
Oh, I really like that. I would totally agree with that too.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I remember a time in my early 20s of feeling like I didn't have enough friends, or I didn't have enough community, and I would love to go back and just tell myself, like, it's not so much the number of people, it's really the
Mm-hmm.
quality. So just keep paying attention to that. Like, how do you
Mm-hmm.
feel when you're with certain people? Do you
Mm-hmm.
feel truly supported and comfortable? And having one friend like that and then building up to two friends like that is so much more important than being able to say like that you've got 20 friends.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, the
Yeah.
way I always say it, and not just personally, but this is also something that I use in business, is that do I want 10,000 people that kind of like me, or do I want 10 people that are really, 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 that really, really like me and really, really, I really, really belong with?
Yeah.
So that's how I always word it. So yeah. Well,
Yeah.
Annie, yeah, thank you so much for your time. What's the best way that we could connect with you?
I'm on Instagram at Annie Schuessler,
Mm-hmm.
and you can also find me by looking up Rebel Therapist.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and then
But yeah, I love interacting with people on Instagram.
yeah. Well, thank you so much, Annie. First things first, I gotta acknowledge you for the stand that you are for helping other therapists and people in general, help them stand in their power and claim pretty much claim what's theirs through by building the businesses of their dreams. So thank you. We acknowledge you for that.
Thank you so much for creating what you've created here and for inviting me.
Yeah. Hey, thank you so much for checking out this episode of the Play Inspired podcast. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget to share this episode with someone you think it could help. Remember, go out there, always feel good. That's our number one goal. And let's keep the conversation of vulnerability and self expression going. Let's go out there, live life to the fullest, and keep expressing ourselves. May all beings be happy and free.